Hello, everyone. Today, we are going to talk about the 1936 Olympics, which is going to be quite the the parallel to how we're being used now. So it's going to be a really interesting stream tonight. Hey, David, how's it going? Dave's a mod now, guys, so behave yourselves. He's going to be on you. Hey, David, can you hear me well? I want to make sure that the sound is okay. My computer is supposed to be for live stream. Thanks, Dave. It's supposed to be for live stream and my YouTube stuff, and that was the intent when we bought the computer and set it up. But it's been taken over by oh my gosh, it's been taken over by the kids for school. I don't even know if I'm actually live on YouTube. So anyways, it's going to be an interesting stream. Last week, the stream audio was really crappy for like the first 20 minutes. And I'm so sorry about that. I downloaded my own video from YouTube and I cut like the first part where I messed up the sound. And then I tried to put out another video that was a 5-minute of the compilation of a specific topic I was talking about. So I think I'm going to do that going forward. There's going to be a couple of videos like that, so I can do one live stream and then I can put a 5-minute clip or 2 or 3 5-minute clips in other places like Rumble and Odyssey, and I'm on all those channels as well. So we're going to try to do that, and it's going to be a little bit easier for me than having to do multiple videos throughout the week. So I think that's going to work out well. It seemed to have worked out well last week. Oh, and by the way, I always get like 1 thumbs down for each of my YouTube videos. Now, don't go and thumb it down now, but I'm just saying, the last video I did, which I posted on Sunday, I actually didn't have one. I checked out earlier and there's still no thumbs down. So I don't know what happened to my thumbs down person. Where are you? Did you leave? Are you going? Did you get kicked off YouTube? Maybe that's what's happening. But anyways, I thought it was pretty funny that I didn't even get a thumbs down. So anyways, the Olympics, this is what we are going to be talking about today. The 1936 Olympics, which is also dubbed the Nazi Olympics, because it was like the epic masterclass in how to propagandize and pull the wool over a mass amount of people. And you're going to see, we're going to cover a whole bunch of stuff today relating to that. And it's really directly comparable to what's happening right now with the COVID. So essentially the Nazis hijacked the Olympics and made it a political event, and they were trying to make Germany look super good on the world stage. And so it was kind of Germany was in a build back better stage at that point, and that's what they used the Olympics for, was to win the international support. And it actually worked. It was short-lived, but it actually worked. So a total success in the propaganda world, and this is what a lot of other countries have used to do propaganda. And I'm convinced at this point, because of the similarities with what's happening today, that they've taken from the playbook of the Nazi Olympics to do some events, some of the stuff that they're doing with COVID right now. So you're going to see, we're going to cover all of that today. And we're going to talk about a few of the athletes as well, because those people are super interesting, and seeing what happened to them it's fascinating. So you're going to want to stay for the whole stream, which won't be too long today. I'm really tired. I don't know if I can go for an hour. I had a rough day. We will read a tiny bit of this book. So you guys know we've been I know there's not very many people on DLive today. I don't know what's going on, but there's quite a few people on YouTube. So anyways, that's great. Now I can't share the link on all my platforms, Dave, because on Rumble I have like 60 followers. I think YouTube is my best bet in this world. So anyways, until I grow my channel on Rumble and BitChute and all those Odyssey, I think I have 2 followers. It's kind of a joke. It's really hard to rebuild your entire channel on different platforms now, because not everybody wants to go to all the other platforms. So you only scoop up a few from YouTube in each platform. So it's kind of more scattered and a little bit more annoying. But anyways, okay. So the book we've been reading over the last month that we've been doing these streams is this one. I'm going to just repeat it in case somebody wants to know. It's called I Will Bear Witness, and it's by Victor Klemperer, my Jewish professor friend who was living through all of that. And I'm not going to read too much from the book today because I found that in 1936, he's talking more about how he's trying to build his house and fix some stuff there and fix his garden and how his car is breaking down. So it's kind of not really relevant it's relevant in the way that he's kind of just recording his thoughts, but it's not really relevant to what the Nazis were doing. So I'm going to skip a large part and only read about 2 or 3 excerpts this time around for that from the book. So anyways, Germany's Build Back Better. So they actually had a tagline too, just like those idiots that World Bank and World Health Organization are trying to cram the Build Back Better into our world. Germany, 1930s, it started in the 20s, but they called it Germany Awake. That was their tagline. And Germany Awake just meant Deutschland erwache. and that was what the Nazis would use as their rallying cry. And after they had the whole economic collapse and after World War I, Germany was blamed for World War I. And they totally abused Germany after. So, and by they, I mean all the other countries, so France and England and US, they came up with something called the Treaty of Versailles. Super boring history, I know, but kind of important to know, because what the Treaty of Versailles is, it totally punished Germany. So it prevented them from having an army that was substantial, prevented them from making too much money, prevented them from developing arms for future wars, things like that, and a whole bunch of other sanctions on Germany. So it completely decimated Germany, who was already decimated by the war. And I'm not trying to make excuses for Germany, because Germany, you ain't a blameless victim in this whole thing. And disclaimer, by the way, because I know I saw today in the news that Canada declared, a bunch of groups white supremacists, just in case somebody will have the brilliant idea of trying to fit me in with the neo-Nazis. I've been doing all these streams and all of these YouTube videos for 2 years now, trying to alert you of what it was the Nazi did, what it was the Islamists did, what it was that the communists did to destroy their countries, so that we don't destroy our country. So anybody who's going to try to portray me as a Nazi is going to be, you're going to look kind of like an idiot. I wouldn't recommend doing it, but I just want to put a disclaimer out there. In case somebody watches this and you're new to this channel and you've never been here before, I've spent 2 years trying to warn people about what happens if you're in a totalitarian environment and how we can avoid it, right? So anyways, okay. So Treaty of Versailles is imposed, Germany's Deutsche Mark collapsed, and they had to buy a loaf of bread. It cost like $16 billion. I can't remember, like I'm exaggerating, don't quote me on that, but it was super expensive to go in and buy anything, completely ridiculous. So the Germans were beat down, demoralized and everything. And that's how Hitler kind of came to power. And then when it came time for the Olympics to come around, it was in the late 20s and early 30s, 31, they decided, all right, we're going to give the Olympics to the Germans. So the Germans took that opportunity to try to launch their Build Back Better, their Germany Awake propaganda onto the world stage. So that was the whole goal. And it wasn't Hitler that came up with it. Hitler was kind of annoyed. Like if you look back into Hitler, his starting days, he was like super unpolished. Like he would go to these parties and he would stuff his mouth, like these really high class parties. And because he was hungry, he would stuff his mouth with all these hors d'oeuvres instead of properly eating. Like he looked like a pig, and he had to be finessed. So he had this other guy, a friend, that would help him with that thing, because he was a really good speaker, but he was terrible in these parties. So he had to be finessed a lot. So the Nazi party essentially said to Hitler in the 30s, like, kind of chill out, take a back seat to certain things so that you don't come off as being overburdening in this whole thing. So that's exactly what Hitler did for the Olympics. He kind of chilled out. The only thing he did is he did the opening speech saying, the Olympics are declared open. And then he sat back and he basically acted like all the British royalty when they go to any game. They kind of sit and they clap, and once in a while they'll get up and they'll look excited about something. But that was pretty much it. If you look at any of the video from Hitler in the Germany Olympics, that's pretty much all he did. So he's tame. So it wasn't him that came up with this idea of doing this whole propaganda thing around the Olympics. It was Goebbels, right? His minister of propaganda. So he took the Germany awake concept and applied it into the Olympics as a massive propaganda to try to make Germany look super chill on the world scene. So like, oh, we're good now. We're evolved. We're civilized. We're not going to start another world war. That was what they're trying to go for, right? And they were trying to convince the world that Germany was okay now. So that was the whole idea behind this whole thing. And yeah, it was a rebranding. So you can see the rebranding from the Germany 1930s, awake is the same as the Build Back Better we have now. There is no difference, except that now they're not using the Olympics. They're using COVID to make it look like we need to rebuild back better because COVID decimated everything. And oh my gosh, we have to now go into full-blown socialism. So you can see how this whole thing, this whole concept is a recycled concept from the 30s. It's not even new. And I just hope people remember that as you get through COVID, that the tactics they're using on us is directly plunked out of previous totalitarian regimes where how they took over the country. And so they're doing that right now for Germany with the Olympics. They're doing the same thing with COVID for us. So their biggest propaganda thing, by the time they got to the Olympics, they had to make Germany look really good. So they did a bunch of things like cleaned up Berlin. The Olympics were like 4 kilometers out of Berlin. They built the whole Olympic village. So they cleaned up Berlin. And they wanted to make sure that the USA came. So without the USA in the Olympics, pretty much everybody would have backed out. Because if the USA didn't show up, the USA was typically the biggest country that would enter an Olympic. And they wanted, if the USA didn't enter, a lot of other countries would have not gone, because without the US there, what's the point? And also there was a huge amount of pressure to boycott the Olympics because they were held in Germany and because people were aware of what Hitler was doing to the Jewish people. So anyways, that's what they ended up doing, is put on a whole show to convince the US. So the US sent their head of the Olympic Committee there. His name was Avery Brundage, and he went over there. And for him to go through the streets of Berlin, everything had to be like, spick and span. So they had spent months cleaning up before, pretty much since 31, they pretty much spent their time cleaning up the cities and making sure that everything was good for the Olympics. So they also took all of the undesirable elements of society, like the gypsies and the black people. And I'm not saying black people are undesirable. I'm not saying gypsies are undesirable. I'm saying the Germans deemed they were, and they put them in detention camps in around Berlin, right? So that's what they did. They took him out of Berlin so that this Avery dude showing up wouldn't see them. And everybody was obviously super welcoming. They took down the signs that they had started putting in the shops saying Jews are not welcome, or this is a Jewish shop, don't shop here. All that propaganda that was in the windows, the parks, everywhere, they took it all down to make sure that they didn't, the Olympic Committee didn't see that when they came on their visit. And this guy Avery from the US, he was fighting against this boycott. He really wanted to believe Germany was totally cool and a peaceful society at this point. So he was kind of easy to convince. It wasn't that hard, but he ended up actually doing that. Hold on just one second. Oh, sorry. I get so flustered when I talk for so long. That's what happens. Anyways. Oh, and by the way, in case you want to know what this is, it's not wine. It's a drink of what's it called? I can't remember the name. It's to make your skin look really good. So anyways, I don't remember the name, but it's a mix of that. And I'm not sponsored by those guys. But anyways, okay. So they needed the USA to show up at the Olympics. And the USA visited Germany, and they ended up being convinced. So now the USA said, okay, we'll come to your little Olympics, Germany. However, you must ensure that you're not boycotting Jewish athletes. So how Germany got around with that, because they ended up only having 2 Jewish athletes compete. What Germany ended up doing is they said, hey, US, you're not super great to your Black people, are you? Right? You still have segregation, right? And so because of that, the U.S. kind of had to go in shame and say, yeah, we're not really great to our Black people. So who are we to judge how the Germans are treating their Jewish population, or their gypsies, or their disabled, right? So that's kind of how Germany got away with only doing two athletes that were Jewish, and the USA came anyways. So anyways, it's kind of interesting. So after that, they also took down all the newspapers that they would use for all the propaganda, anti-Jewish propaganda. They made sure none of those newspapers were printed or available during any of the time that this Avery guy was there, and also during the time that the Olympic Village was open. So when the tourists were in Berlin for the Olympics, none of this was showing, none of this bad part of Germany, which is really, it's very telling, because it means they actually knew that what they were doing was morally corrupt. They knew it. They knew they needed to hide the fact that they were planning on attacking their Jewish population. It's so telling, the fact that they did that. It's crazy, right? And when Avery was there, but also when the Olympic Village was full of tourists, before that, Germany used to have their SA, right? Their stormtroopers go out and bully people in the streets. And during the Olympics, the 2 weeks of the Olympics, it was weird, because those people who normally go around, the brown shirts who normally go around kicking people, were actually going around being like super jovial and super nice and like kind of joking with everybody. So even the Germans were like, what the heck's happening with the SA, right? They're all being nice all of a sudden. And it's kind of like, when you're in a schoolyard and you're always caught in the back of the schoolyard behind the gym, and then you have the bully who's always beating up the smaller kid with glasses. And then the teacher walks around back, and then the bully just stops and pretends to be nice. That's literally what the Germany brown shirts did during the Olympics. They totally pretended they weren't bullies. It was such an act. Everything was an act. So anyways, okay, so that's what happened. So they won the Olympics, and then the Olympics happened, and it was a super successful thing. Like, it was huge. It was the first time that it was televised, so that was a big event, and it was super important to Goebbels that this gets televised, because he could reach more people that way, and he can control who he could make a film after. So he got this filmmaker to make a film showing how it was amazing. And there was things like the Olympic torch. So they never had the Olympic torch thing before. That was started by the Nazis, by the way. It's kind of sad that it's one of our Olympic traditions today, but they actually started this where they had an Olympic torch coming in from Greece, and it took a bunch of people a few weeks to bring it all the way over to Germany. And then the guy ran with the Olympic torch and lit the whole thing. That started with the Nazis. It was never done before. So anyways, short-lived, but a huge success overall for all of that. Hitler stayed super chill, and he didn't do anything that caused any problems. There was some controversies with, like, the USA when they do the Olympic march at the start to present all the teams. Well, they went in front of Hitler, and you're supposed to lower your flag. And the USA said, no, we're not doing that for Hitler. And they just left their flag super high up. And then after that, when they kind of were called out on that, they said, oh, yeah, it's because we only lower our flag for our US president. So that's kind of how they got around with it. So there's a couple, like, little bit of drama here and there, but not too much, and not too much involving Hitler. But where there was drama was with a few other athletes. So let's talk about the athletes now very, very quickly. And I'm going to only talk about 4 people here. 3 of them are athletes. 1 of them was not. But let's start with them. So there was an athlete called Gretel Bergmann, and she had a huge controversy. So she was Jewish athlete, and she actually went to she was in England, and she was called back by the Nazis because she was the world record holder for high jump or long jump. I can't remember, one of those two. And she was living in UK, and they threatened her. They said, if you don't come back, you still have family in Germany, and we can easily mess with them. So it's to your advantage to come back to Germany for the Olympics. So they coaxed her in that way. She came back to Germany. She ended up actually trying out for the Olympic team. She was obviously the record holder, so she should have made the team. but she was told 2 weeks before that she was not going to make the team, and 2 weeks before the Olympics. And then she was replaced by this other person. Now, I can't remember this other person's name, but they were on the team. They came in fourth. And it turns out that after a few years, they found out that the person she was replaced with was technically a man. So this was not like a nowadays issue where you're like, I'm a man pretending to be a woman. This guy had some legit things in his background where he was told he was a girl by a couple physicians, and he ended up thinking he was, even though he had like the male parts. So it's kind of a weird story, but he clearly looked like a man. If you look the pictures up, he looks like a man. I wish I could remember his name. I really don't. But anyways, so if you want to see the pictures of this guy, maybe I can Google them. Hold on. Maybe I can find that. Just give me a sec, guys. I'm going to do Pip because I'm going to show you a picture. It'll be a bit of show and tell. It'll break up my speech here so it's not completely. Let me see if I can even figure this out. I don't even know if I can. One sec here. Oh, yeah, there we go. Okay, share screen. Pip, here we go. I'm going to share this screen over here. Okay. And there we go. I don't think I got too much. Here, let me just go in here. I know, don't call me out for using Google, guys. I know, Google's bad. But I just, hold on, let me find her here. Gretel. This is the lady who got replaced. But I'm trying to find her other guy. Replaced by man. Let's see if we can find that way. This one here, Dora. So this is the name. Let me see if I can find a picture. Okay, so check this out, guys. This is the person that replaced the female. I don't know, like I look at this and I'm like, oh boy. Let me see if I can find another picture here. Dora how is it? Ratjen. Yes, there we go. Okay. Images. Let's go to the images because there's one. This one is the one I wanted to show you guys. I don't know if it's going to let me show it really big, but check out the muscle mass on this. Oh, it's a little bit small, but I don't know if you can tell by the arms here. You can tell by the leg muscle and the calf. It's like just super, super defined. And the women that are doing this high jump, they don't even have that kind of muscle mass. It's really crazy. There's a color picture for you. I don't know. To me, I look at this person and I see a man, but it was really complex. If you look at his history, it's really, really sad. And I don't think he had a very happy life because he legit was misdiagnosed at birth. So there was something with his genitals where it was a little bit of both, but he was not classified as hermaphrodite. So it's a very sad story because he ended up living his life as a girl. He got arrested in 1939 on a train because he looked like a girl, but sorry, he was dressed like a girl, looked like a man. And the train ticket guy was like, this is weird. Who's this weirdo passenger? And they basically arrested, and they got a medical doctor to come and do an examination. And that's how they found out that this was technically a man. So anyways, then there's the whole conspiracy around, did they take this man and replace him, like knowing it was a man? So it's all alleged. Who knows anymore what's the truth in this story? But it is alleged that the Nazis knew he was a man. And come on, like look at this picture. I don't know how you can think it's not a man. Even his own teammates were like, he's a bit weird. Like she's a bit weird. So there is a theory floating out there that the Nazis knew that this was a man and that they would have to replace this Gretel, who was the record holder, the world record holder, with a man because they wouldn't be able to do this if it wasn't a man doing the long jump or the high jump, whatever. So this is why there's the theory floating out there of why they used the man. The Nazis used this person, this Dora, knowing it was a man, but pretending to be a woman so that they could win the Olympics. And he ended up coming in fourth, so he didn't even win. So that kind of backfired if that was the idea. But there's other schools of thought who say they actually legit didn't know that this guy was a guy, and they thought it was a girl, and so that was that, right? So a little bit weird, but anyways, so there we go. I'm just gonna stop this sharing. So yeah, so there, that's kind of the story around Gretel. So she was kicked out and replaced by this Dora, and when Gretel, she went back to the States after this, and she actually ended up telling people, like, the Nazis replaced me with a man in order to, because I was a Jew, and they didn't want me to win. They didn't want a Jew to win the gold medal. So they would prefer having nobody, or a German or any other country win the gold medal, rather than have a Jew win in Germany. So I kind of believe her when you think about what they did to their Jewish population. Can you imagine Hitler and his bunch of goons going around going, oh yeah, we're going to totally be okay with a Jewish person winning the Olympics after we've just spent 10 years trying to destroy the Jews, right? Like, it doesn't make any sense. So if you think of it that way, I believe her story when she says that they did it on purpose. That's just my opinion, though. Who knows what's the real story behind that. So anyways, the second athlete I'm going to talk about today is Helen Mayer. Helen Mayer, remember last week, I don't know if you guys saw the stream last week, but I talked about how in 1935, the Nazis decided who was a Jew. And if you had one grandfather or grandmother that was a Jew, you could be okay because your Jewness, I guess, was diluted enough. This is Nazi theory, not Julie Nazi. That it was diluted enough that you'd be okay. But as soon as you had two grandparents, or if your whole family was Jewish, you kind of were screwed. The Nazis determined you're done, and you're considered a Jew, therefore you're not a citizen anymore. So Helen Mayer, she was half Jewish. So she was, according to the Jewish law at the time, she was unpersoned, right? She was considered to be not a German citizen anymore. But she was one of the people that the Nazis agreed to put on the Olympic team because the USA had pressured them, right? So that she got her place simply because of the US pressure to add Jewish people to the Olympics for representing Germany, because there was a lot of Jewish athletes, but they were all from other countries in the 36 Olympics, right? So Helen, what she did is, after she won, and I don't think she won gold, I think she won bronze, but what she did is she ended up doing the Nazi salute on the podium. And she was super controversial because everybody knew she was Jewish. And so the entire Jewish population of Germany kind of turned their back to her. It's such a sad story. But a lot of people say she was forced to do it. She knew that if she didn't do the Hitler salute as a representative of Germany on a podium, there would be far worse things happening to her after. So she kind of made the decision. I think she made the decision on the podium to go for it and do the Nazi salute. It's very, very sad that that's how it happened. But yeah, so she was disliked by the Germans and disliked by the Jewish people after that. She was essentially screwed and destitute. It's such a sad story to see how all these things just corrupt everything, right? And it's not her fault. I don't fault her the least for this. I don't know what I would have done if I was in her shoes. Okay, before I get to Jesse Owens, which was the mega star of the Olympics, I just want to talk a little bit about this other guy. Now, this guy is the dude who designed the entire Olympic Village. So he designed it. He made sure it was welcoming to all the athletes. He made sure all of the training facilities were top notch. He made sure that the houses where the athletes would stay were beautiful. They were big. It was a very, very nice village and a huge success. And he was commended by the international community for how well the Olympic Village was designed in 36. Unfortunately for him, he was Jewish. So in Germany, there was absolutely zero attention given to him for this success. Absolutely none at all. They completely spat on him after this. And to the point where he eventually committed suicide a few years later because he realized how persecuted the Jewish people were. So it's just such a sad state of affairs how you can have people who can do amazing things for your community, but because you're so backward thinking and you can't even accept it, you are willing to destroy that. It just blows my mind. I will never understand what can go on in the mind of people who will look at another category of people and literally dismiss all of them for ideological race reasons, whatever, it doesn't matter. And this is why I always say, you guys know I started doing the videos that where I discuss a lot of the Islamic doctrine. And I always say, not all Muslims. Like literally, if you go back 2 years ago, when you look at all of my videos about Islam, I say in every video, not all Muslims, because you cannot group everybody in one category and then assign them a status, right? It doesn't work like that. If you have the ability to think, if you value individuality, anyways, that is that's how I view things. So, okay, I think I saw somebody in there saying I'm a stupid liberal egalitarian. Is that directed at me? Is that, I don't know if that's directed. I hope not, because my God, dude, you should look at the videos I get so mad. I did about communism. If you think I'm an egalitarian, Jesus, man, you have no idea what you just walked into. But anyways, maybe that wasn't for me, and if it's not, that's all good. Anyways, okay, let's talk about Jesse Owens really quickly. So Jesse Owens, he came with the USA team, and he was a Black person, and he won 4 gold medals at these Olympics. So he was like a superstar. All of his teammates loved him, and he ended up, hey, Gun Cotton, I see you in there. Hey, old white guy. I have some good people in the chat. It's amazing. Thanks, guys. Anyways, so he won all these medals, and he had a little bit of a sad story, because in the States, he was also discriminated against based on race. So he was loved in Germany. The Berliners, they loved him. So when he was there for the Olympics, like, he was treated like a big superstar. And he was such a cool guy. And he actually came back from the Olympics after winning those medals. And he got a whole bunch of sponsorship deals, like things like corporate deals, right? And when you turn to those kinds of deals, you end up being a pro athlete. And to be in the Olympics, you have to be amateur, right? So the Olympic Committee ended up kind of kicking him out and saying, well, we can't work with you anymore if you're going to be doing corporate deals. So unfortunately for him, there's a bunch of corporate deals that ended up falling through. And he ended up doing a whole bunch of stuff. He owned like a dry cleaner. He used to go to fairs and actually race horses. Like, he would like race against a horse. I don't know if he won. I don't know if you ever won against a horse, but he would do that. He'd race against like other people on bets, you know. And what I like about this guy is he had such a really nice attitude about this whole thing, because he was like, look, yeah, I have gold medals, because people were like, dude, you have 4 gold medals. Like, what the hell are you doing at this local fair, racing a horse, running against a horse? And he said, well, I actually, I can't eat my gold medals. So that was his reply to people. So anyways, it's sad in a way, but he had such good spirits about him. I really like that guy. And when I think about Jesse Owens, I just think about all of the, like BLM. Why don't you pick him as a hero? Why don't you look into his things and maybe emanate his spirit, right? Why do you have to go into the whole racism thing and all cops bad? Like, it just blows my mind, because there are so many good people in US history that you can pick from. And yet BLM just goes around and just thinks we're still working in 1960 and treat the whole society as if it's still 1960. And it's frustrating, because if you knew what actually was in 1960, or what it actually was for Black people to live in the 1930s, maybe you'd change your mind. You know, maybe BLM would have a different tune to see that. Like, try to think about any NFL pro player these days. Who is getting like this by Nike and all that? None of them. They all have huge deals. They're all super mega millionaires. They're all superstars. They're loved by so many fans. The Black people in America and in Canada are not oppressed there is, the oppression is not happening at that level. You're not oppressed because you're Black. You're not disadvantaged in America because you're Black or white or Chinese or whatever, because it's the land of opportunity, right? You can just take your opportunity. You're oppressed by the actions you take. That's what's oppressing you. And instead of facing that, people just blanket blame, oh, it's white supremacy. Oh, BLM needs to be there to help all of that stuff. So anyways, yeah, it's kind of frustrating, but yeah, so there we go. Those are my 4 people I wanted to talk about relating to this. I'm just gonna share with you a little bit of the book. Are there lots of Jew haters in the comments, guys? You know how I feel about that. Oh, anyways, I think old white guy's giving them the beat down. Is that what's going on, old white guy? Give them the beat down, or at least, I mean, we don't need to ban people, because you all know how I like free speech, but geez, man, we got to stop with the Jew hatred. We got to stop. And don't tell me the whole thing that communism was started by Jews like that. Just because a Jewish person did something doesn't mean you take all Jewish people from the world and put them in that same category. Yes, there were communists that were Jews. Yes, there were fascists that were Jews. Yes, there were Nazis that were Jews. Like, there was, the Jewish people were bankers. They're marketers. They're like, and yes, you have a corrupt banker who's a Jew, it doesn't mean it's all the Jewish people. Like, man, do we really have to go down this route? Have we not seen what happens when you go after a whole race of people? Anyways, it just makes me so angry, and this is why I'm trying to make sure we don't go we don't go back into this kind of thing. I'm trying to show you guys the signs of what it looks like when your country is starting to turn against the population. And I see a lot of anti-Semitism right now in Canada, and I think that in the future there's also going to be a whole category of people will be the unvaxxed people when it relates to COVID. So I think that's going to be like a newly created group of people. So you know how the communists had like the peasants were the superstar, and the rich people, you had to get rid of them. So they had an economic class. The Nazis had a race class. I think we're going to have a medical class. That's going to be our thing in this COVID pandemic totalitarian takeover. It's going to be the unvaccinated people. So the tactics that were used against the Jews, the tactics that were used against the rich people of the USSR are all going to be used again against the people who are going to decide not to be vaccinated, the future unvaxxed medical class. And this is what I'm trying to sound the alarm on. This is where we're headed. And by banning speech and things like that, which is all the tactics that were used, by vilifying an entire category of people, so the Jewish people were vilified. If you vilify all the unvaxxers as all these dirty little, uncaring class of people who don't like you because they're not getting vaccinated to protect you, therefore they're selfish. If you like start branding all these people the same way and you have a whole category, this is where you end up with genocidal movements. Like, this is how you do it. And I'm trying to warn you guys, and there is no need to go after the Jews in putting them all in the same boat. And do I think that all the Jews are perfect? No, there are some Jewish who are corrupt, just like there are some Christian people who are corrupt. There's Muslims who are corrupt. There's corrupt in every class, every society, like at my workplace, there's people that are corrupt. It doesn't mean my whole workplace is a corrupt, infested place, right? Like a corruption fest. People need to learn this stuff. If you don't learn from history, we're going to repeat this behavior again. And we're supposed to be a little bit more evolved. We're supposed to be smarter. I don't know if we are. Anyways, okay. End of rant. But anyways, I have a few people in the chat that are mods that know that I'm not anti-Jewish, and that I don't really like when people say that, but I still think you're allowed. You're allowed to come in here and spew all your Jew hatred. It'll just alert me to who you really are, all right? And there's no point in doing that in here because I'm just going to still fight you against it. So anyways, okay. So I'm going to read only 2 excerpts from this today, maybe 3 if my voice doesn't give out. but yeah, so and this is again, so this is in February 1936, and this is my guy, Victor Klemperer. So the situation is even darker. In Davos, a Jewish student has shot the German party agent of the NSDAP, the Nazi party. For the moment, as the Olympic Games are taking place here, everything is being hushed up. They will turn on the hostages, on the German Jews later. And this guy is absolutely right. They hushed it for a bit. They hushed it for a brief period of time. We just covered that in this stream. They will turn on them later, and they will turn hard on them. It is about to go down really badly for the Jewish population of Germany. And also Europe, by the way, because Germany is just the start. That is how, on the whole, and in my own case, I am the only Jew in this rural district, at least the only prominent one. Calix, the mayor, has already raised difficulties and complained to Pretorius about me. When we built the extension in the summer, I was disfiguring the neighborhood with a wooden house and tar board roofing. So you can see, like, this is totally relatable. So how, just a very easy example of how they're making it really hard for Jewish people by doing small steps, right? So not allowing them to have permits. This guy, the mayor of his city, will not give him, he's giving him difficulty because he doesn't like the wood the guy put on the side of his house, right? So it probably didn't even have anything to do with the wood. It's probably the wood was the excuse. The fact that he was a Jewish person was the problem. But we're going to make life difficult for you no matter what, right? So, and it's just the same thing for, like, if you think about the masks today, the masks are mandatory pretty much everywhere now. And if you go somewhere and you don't wear a mask, they're going to make it difficult for you. You can't go into a store. Some places you can't even go to work if you don't wear a mask. So this is kind of how they're making it difficult. And this is where you can kind of see if this trending continues as it eases into the vaccination part of COVID. And if we get into that and you transition into vaccination, it's going to be the people who don't get vaccinated that are going to get their life made really hard for them. So just like this Jewish person couldn't build a house and they attacked the wood, for you, you won't take the vaccine, so we're not going to let you go to work, or we're not going to let you enter the airport, or we're not going to let you go to the ministry to renew your driver's license, right? You're not going to be able to enter those places until you have a vaccine. So anyway, you can see it's all the same. All the same. We've done all this stuff before. We've done it before. This is how I know what's going to happen. It's not because I don't have a crystal ball. I'm not like reading through it. I know history, guys, and I'm trying to tell you. So anyways, okay. I know you guys get it. Okay. So a few weeks ago, a garage, the usual shed with a flat roof, was completed here on Kirchberg, but I am not allowed to build a new one. This year, there must be no more disfigurement. They are demanding a pointed decorative roof, which would take space and view from us. At the district office, I told the clerk, I am not disfiguring anything. Then there simply will be no construction and no work. You perhaps talk to the mayor, but I don't think. I'm not begging for anything that appears to be a matter of course. Goodbye. The next day, the master mason and the carpenter go to the mayor and ask him for the sake of their work, right? So these two trade guys wanted the work. So they went on behalf of the Jewish person to the mayor to say, yo, can you just let this guy have his roof and his wooden siding on his house? He gives them a message for me. I did not seem to know the way things were. I was a guest here, right? See, this is what the Jews were told by Germans. They were like, we took away your citizenship, boy. So now you're a guest. You better behave, right? Yeah. So imagine you live in a place you don't even have citizenship anymore. Okay. And he had a mind to take me into custody for a night. Reported by Lang, the carpenter, who had his house searched a few weeks ago and was threatened at the police station, Denunciation, a scientific book, was found, which the fugitive Jew Blumenfeld had left for him. After Lang helped him pack, I'm very well aware that my life is really in danger. The whole business with the car seems ever more absurd. So anyways, he's all talking about his car too. This is what I told you guys. This guy's talking about his car a lot in 1936. He just got his driver's license, so he's pretty excited to be driving around. Okay. And this is in May. So he says, a hopelessness of the situation, a decree for civil servants. They are prohibited from consorting with Jews, including so-called decent Jews and disreputable elements. We are completely isolated. We have heard nothing from Anne-Marie, nothing from Johannes for weeks. So this is just to show you a quick glimpse into what could potentially happen if we have the vaccinated class and the unvaccinated medical class of people, how the two categories will start talking, like the vax people will start talking to the anti-vax this kind of way, right? You're not going to get your roof. We're not going to talk to you. We don't talk to unvaccinated people. Like, it all seems so surreal, but it could actually happen. And I'm not saying it will. Maybe we'll stop this before, and I'm sure hoping we are, but it's very, very possible that this could go down that way for us as well. Okay, and I think I only have one more. Okay, this is August 13th. The Olympics will end next Sunday. The Nazi party rally is being heralded. An explosion is imminent, and naturally they will, first of all, take things out on the Jews. So much pressure has built up. So you know how the Nazis had to pretend to be nice for 2 weeks? Well, it's about to blow up. The Gustav trial, I'm not sure what trial he's talking about, but it's coming up. And I think that's a guy who stole from him a few years ago. But he's not Jewish, the guy who stole from him, so they're not going to prosecute him, and that's the whole problem with this trial. So in Barcelona, 4 Germans have been murdered as martyrs of Nazis by revolutionary court. And even before that, they were saying German Jewish emigres were stirring up hatred against Germany there. So you can see how here the German paranoia about the Jew is growing. And now they're starting to formulate the ideas, the concrete ideas of how to deal with Jewish people in other countries. So it's right around this point, and this guy actually points it out accurately, how they're going to deal with Jewish people outside of Germany. And you can see how they had all the concentration camps. The death camps were all outside of Germany, right? So the Nazis at this point, right after the Olympics have finished, have gone back to their original plan of getting rid of the Jews, starting with the Jews of Germany, but also starting to formulate tactics to deal with the Jewish people in the world. And it's because the Germans at that point had these grandiose ideas that they were going to be dominating the world. They legit thought they were going to take over the world. So they were making plans as if they were taking the world. They're going to take the world. And this is why there's so much evidence of the Jewish genocide, the concentration camps and all that, all the things that were smuggled out of there. President Eisenhower, who went and sent all of his press media to go and take pictures in the concentration camps. Like, there's so much evidence of the concentration camps and what the Nazis did. But most of it was collected by the Nazis themselves because they were proud. They were proud of what they were doing. And they thought, we need to document this for our future Führer, for our future Deutschland worldwide. And we're going to make sure that we share this as a symbol of our triumph. So the Germans were doing this, and this is why when they started losing the war, they started destroying as much evidence as they possibly could. That's the reason they did it. They were documenting the stuff themselves, and then they actually started to destroy it. Before, this is just like some very dark moments about the concentration camps. Before they had the massive concentration camps and the killing machines with the gas chambers, they used to take people to the fields, and they would dig up a huge hole, and they would just line them up, shoot them in the back of the head, line up the new group, shoot them at the back of the head. They will all fall in, and then they would shoot anybody who moved after that. Just absolutely disgusting, vile behavior. They had to be drunk most of the time to do that. And this is a lot of this information that I'm throwing at you now is from another book that I read, and somebody mentioned it last week in the chat or in one of my videos. But it was like, it's the Ordinary Men book. So Christopher Browning wrote that book. He's a historian, and he explains how these ordinary people did that. But even for ordinary people to go in and be part of the army and to be posted in a forest in Germany somewhere where you had to round up the Jewish villages, Jewish citizens, and shoot them, it became too hard, right? So they would basically cover up the holes, and then they would leave. And then they started doing the mass killings in the factory level killing with the gas. But when they started realizing that this could get out, they sent a whole bunch of people. Some of them were Jewish people from the concentration camps. Some of them were Germans. They sent them back to the forest to dig up the bodies to try to get rid of as much evidence as possible. They tried to burn all of it instead of allowing people to find mass graves in the future. So they did a lot of stuff to cover their stuff, but there's a ton of historical evidence of the Jewish genocide, and not just the Jews. Like, there's a whole bunch of other people. I'm going to talk about this in other streams too. I don't want to get too dark. It's so depressing to think about this. So I will talk about that. I'll talk to you guys in another stream about T4, the T4 program. That's kind of gross, but stay tuned for that. But yeah, there was what happened in the 30s has some direct parallels to what is happening now. I'm trying to show you the tactics. So the removal of freedom of speech, we covered that last week. Using propaganda to fool people around you, that's kind of what we covered today. But using the case study of the Olympics, how Hitler did it with the Olympics. We have a bunch of puppets on the world scene now using COVID as the biggest piece of propaganda. So think about that. And in terms of what's going to happen now, it's going to be an escalation of this stuff. I don't think the world leaders who are responsible for this are going to be like, okay, yeah, no, COVID's done. We kind of we overshot this thing. We thought it was going to be real bad, but it didn't turn out to be that bad. It's kind of like the flu. So they're not going to say that, even though that's the truth. They're gonna double down, and they're gonna keep pushing for the vaccine. There's too much money invested. There's too much at stake for the elites of the world to back down from the vaccine. So I think that there are going to be a lot of people now that are going to be victim of this new propaganda. Look for the propaganda around the vaccine. They're going to tell you, people want the vaccine. You're going to hear that. We already start to hear that now, but as in Canada especially, it gets more available. You're going to hear, oh, it's actually that people are lining up for the vaccine. Oh, we're running out because people are so eager to get it. That people are sneaking into the US to get the vaccine ahead of schedule in Canada. You know, they're going to try to make it look like this vaccine is this thing that everybody wants. And that's going to be another way of using a tactic to make you think you want it. It's a mental, it's psychological warfare at this point. They're going to make you want the vaccine. And it's up to you. I'm not saying don't take the vaccine. I'm saying I want to have the choice to take the vaccine or not to take the vaccine based on my research. That's all I'm asking. And I think that in a democratic country, that's not too much to ask. It's not an unreasonable ask that I'm able to think as an individual and make up my own mind. So anyways, yeah, it's going to be crazy. So I know you're all ready for this. But anyways, I just saw a question go by really quickly in the chat here. Why did the grand, sorry, hold on. I saw it, something about, these things are going by too fast. Why did the Germans report the mass graves to the Red Cross? I don't know. I didn't know they did that. Did they do it after the war, before or during? Sorry, before, during or after the war? I'm tired, guys. It's a long day. During, like when they were doing it, or, I mean, it's no secret that they were killing. People were talking about that. People were talking all over Europe about how the Jewish people were getting killed. And there's another guy who wrote a diary who was starting to say, he's in the 40s though, but he was saying, they're putting Jewish people on a train. We don't know where they're taking them, but they're not coming back, and we think they're getting killed wherever they're going. So, and that was Auschwitz. Everybody knew what was going on in Germany, and this is what infuriated some of the Jewish people so much, is the other countries knew what it was doing. Hitler never hid it. That's the thing. There was, like, he never hid it. He hid it during the Olympics. He wanted to pretend during the Olympics, but he wrote Mein Kampf, which is basically telling the world what he plans to do. And then they were telling, inside Germany, they were telling people, this is what we're going to do. So it was no secret, but what is really baffling to me is how the world didn't react. Why did France not react? Why did England not react sooner? England did a good job. They kicked the Nazi ass, but they didn't react very quickly. And there was part of England that was in favor of the Nazis. So I don't know. Like, I don't know why like, I don't know what you specifically mean by that question, but I don't remember specifically reading about the Red Cross being alerted by the Germans. I know the Red Cross knew, but I don't know. I don't know why they would alert the Red Cross. But anyways, let me see if I can catch if there's anything else here. It's hard to keep up with the chat, guys. I'm really trying to, but it goes by too fast. So anyways, oh yeah, the Great Reset. The Great Reset, that's kind of like the Mein Kampf of 2021. Oh yeah, we're in for a rough ride, guys. I hope you've got your gardens going. I started mine last week, and my stuff all of my little seedlings. Oh, sorry, 3 weeks ago, my seedlings grew, and they all survived. Like I expected, like 30% of them to not make it, but almost all of them survived. So like I have like big parts of my house now have been converted to greenhouses because I'm dealing with too much food, which is a good thing. Probably not going to last, but anyways. So yeah, get your seedlings done, guys, if you wanna have a little bit more independence in the summertime, just in case something happens. If there's a disruption, you want to make sure you can do your own food. It's my opinion, anyways. But okay, that's it for me, guys, today. Thank you so much for staying the whole stream. I hope it wasn't too dark, and I will see you all next week when we cover 1937 and the escalation of the Jew bashing in Germany. So yeah, I will see you all there, and have a good week, guys. Chat soon.